Hey, I'm Ralph Groen. I'm the creative director for Surface, and we're here to talk about the NFL cases for Surface Pro 2 that we designed here. And I can walk you through a little bit about the process that we used to get them where they are now, where you can see them on TV. So I guess we're starting with the space that we're in here. This is our prototyping space. This is where the design studio is located. We have our design studio right in the middle of our prototyping space, and the process that we use on designing every surface and the process that we use to design these cases is a process of rapid iteration and finding out what's important in a certain experience and how we improve on the prototype that we have right now. So if you imagine we got this project to design a case for the NFL, and immediately you have lots of friends because of all the football fans here in our team. And so we usually build a team that's a mix between industrial designers, engineers, prototypers to go and tackle a problem. And the problem we had to tackle was, how do you make a consumer device rugged for this special experience of a football game where you have really beefy guys banging at each other in weather that is either cold or hot and it's raining or snowing, and get them to an experience that increases the productivity. And what we mean by this is that gives the coach so much more time to talk to their players, right? And that's what these devices do. Instead of printing paper and somewhere in a printer room and running them down and have stuff rained on in black and white, you have you have it right here with your Surface. You get the footage. You can draw on the screen. You have everything in color, and you can directly go and coach your team. And so improving the time that the coach has with their players with information that is as rich as possible. That was the project. And so that's where it started. And we started out with taking the Surface Pro 2, which as the consumer device was designed really, really rugged. The screen is laminated into the magnesium chassis, and there is just very little entry points for like moisture and things like this. And it's already pretty rugged. But in order to perfect it for the NFL, we designed a case that is basically designed from two different components. One is there's the rugged plastic shell that really protects the device from super hard shocks. So here you see a couple of ways of how we went out. This first case where we already had the idea of a plastic casing and and this kind of rubbery skin. In its first iteration, it was rather we call it sometimes primitive. You have the basic idea and then you prototype it and then you stick a device in it and you learn. And here we had doors for every port that we had on the device. And we learned that not all the ports you would need. At the same time, this prototype here didn't allow any venting, and so we found out, well, if you don't allow the device to vent, you cannot run it when it's in its full power, and so we needed to do something about this. So this was the second case that we developed, and here you can see we allowed for ventilation, so the device could suck air in, cool the processor, and put it back out, and so the device could run at at really high speed that is required to for all the things that you want to do on the sidelines. At the same time, we still had a bunch of ports, and we actually built this device to a point. We already had the way to attach it with the handle. We took it to a bunch of games and figured out what you would actually need in the special experience. And part of the thing that our design process is to really work with a lot of prototypes to test out your theory. And so we took this device out and we found a couple of things that, you didn't need all these ports. Basically in the end, what the ports that are really important is the port that lets you power the device and the port that lets you put a USB stick in, because those are the super important ones in that experience. The other thing that we found was that the ventilation we created also invited water to come in and run right into the device. So this was good learning. The device that we then actually made still was at its architecture very close to the black one that I just showed you. But we improved upon these details I was just talking about. So there's a internal super rugged skeleton that is then covered up by this skin. And so now the skin covers we call it an indirect vent. It creates basically a gutter for the water to run past the device and not into the device. And so we could now have our surface in the worst rain weather, and nothing would penetrate the device while the device would get plenty of cooling. And so you can see that through iterations of this process, we then came to a casing where we learned a whole bunch throughout the iterative prototyping we did, and actually taking it out to the fields where the devices could actually get used. And a moment ago we had the small cart, I don't know where that went, but we designed, of course, a cart for it where the devices get stationed, and they are charged and they're ready for the coaches to go and grab them out. Here's a small version of it, right? So when you're on TV, it's as small as in real life. Whereas if you see this cart, so this is where these surfaces would be provided. They can get hauled out. It was important to design the right size of wheels and the handles to get them actually onto the fields and just provide the digital version of paper to coaches and players. For the surface design team, it was a phenomenal, kind of a little bit of a design vacation, in a sense that we focus so much on designing consumer devices and perfect our devices for the consumer space. And this one was so kind of out of that zone, in the sense that it was for a very busy, very rugged, extreme environment, kind of scenario, that we could take the consumer device and then designed the case around it, and learned so much, not only about weather in the case, but also about our own device. That it was just a phenomenal break, and just some great insights to make, improving on making products better.
Now, just to give you a little bit of an idea of how scarce it is, there are only 12,300 of these in existence worldwide.